But science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown, an illusion?
Where you been?
Drunk.
Wendy, darling, light of my life.
What is your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death? Yeah, so fuck up and die.
So what the fuck what are we talking about?
People want to hear some silence for a minute. They get so bombarded by the fact that we're always jib jabbing and talking. And we're always just so fast at this podcast.
In this medium of voices, this podcast. Sometimes we just want a moment of silence, from these us two jerks that never shut up.
You came to the right podcast.
Yeah, so this is the Cult of Cinema Knowledge podcast where we never shut up and we constantly just talk a whole bunch about movies until we our ADHD kicks in and we forget what we were saying, and then we just don't talk for a second. We're like, what? Please, Jordan, take over saying something because I forgot where I was going with this.
Let's get back on track. And speaking of track, this film had several hit tracks.
I know. I was wondering what your opinion on it was because I know you hate that era of music.
No, I had fun because it's not the classic.
Yeah.
Like at the end when Jesse's Girl and like that other one played,
That's fine.
I definitely was annoyed.
Well, that's
because
like
it's
pop.
the super top 40. Yeah, like the super.
At least
super
it's
pop
not.
Stuff that I've heard
You're
a
more
million
like
times.
I don't want Fog Hat and shit like that. Like you want the rock and roll. It's like this is like definitely more
which
like
is funny.
Disco.
I was watching Easy Rider the other day, and like I forgot how many like classic needle drops that movie has.
You were watching Easy
and I
Rider?
don't like any. Yeah, and I don't like any of the. Any of the songs.
I'm 100% gonna put. So I'm jumping ahead, but next month is 60s movies month, and I'm gonna 100% put Easy Rider on there for sure.
Okay, let me tell you the path that got me to Easy Rider. BBS is the company that produced Easy Rider, and they're a company in the late 50s that got a the mid 60s to late 60s. They got a 6-picture movie deal. They're the ones that did the Last Picture Show.
Oh.
So they did Easy Rider, and then they started it off with a different one, but I've spaced it now.
You know what? I could
it's like,
see that kind of for some reason, like like a
And
link
they did
between
what-
the
they
two.
did-
I could see it.
Did you ever hear that experimental film called Head? Do you remember that? Did you ever hear about that a while ago? Or like in film school we
I've seen
talked about
something called Head.
it. Yeah, Head. Well, no, that's kind of like Boogie Nights, but no, it's like Head is like this like anti-Vietnam kind of experimental, kind of like
rings a bell.
kind of like wild romp. They made that one too. That was part of their 6-picture deal. But anyways, Easy Rider is one of them, and I was like, oh shit, man, I loved Easy Rider. And so I started watching it, and then I was like, maybe like a half an hour in, and I was like, oh, okay. Like I'm like, this is cool, but I was like, we might watch it for 60s month.
Yeah.
And I just kind of, I don't know. I just wanted
So right about now, dear listener, you're probably looking at your phone and being like, what episode did I click on? Did I click on the Easy Rider episode? These guys are talking about all kinds of movies that are not Boogie Nights. Which is the movie we're talking about today. Is Boogie Nights is the one.
Paul Thomas Anderson's 1969 film, Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Boogie Nights, man. What is there to say about Boogie Nights?
All right.
Yeah, let's give the listeners a little synopsis.
A quick synopsis. This is I'm not going to go into all the details because this is, even though it's not like a super plot heavy movie, it has a lot of characters and they each kind of have their own thing going. So I'm not going to get into every one of them all the time. I'm just going to hit the broad strokes. So here we go. Boogie Nights is late 70s. Follows this kid Eddie that is a dishwasher at this disco club that he goes to, right? And
what does he wash?
Dishes. And there's a scene and he's washing some dishes, and then he's washing some stuff, and then he washes his dick.
He washes that hog. Dude.
No. So it's like this. It's this bumpin' disco club that all these cool cats go to. Jack Horner, who is played by Burt Reynolds, is this hot shot porno director, and all these other people are there. They meet and they kind of have like a little bit of connection. He's like, "Oh, what do you want to be? You got a look to you, kid." And immediately he's like, if you want to see me jack off, it's $10. He's like, yeah. He's like, if you got $10, so he's like, okay, well, we'll see. Well, we'll check it out. So he's at home.
He's
He's
impressed with what's in his genes.
That's his whole thing. He's at home. He's with his girlfriend in high school or whatever, or he's not in school, but he's 17. But she's like, "Oh, your dick is so special," and he's like, "Yeah, that's my one special thing," But then he meets up with Jack again and Roller Girl and Amber, this whole like crew of like this like film company, and they're kind of like falling in with that. And it's Jack is like, "Hey, you want to fuck the Roller Girl?" And so they do, and he's like kind of introduced to him. He's like, let me see that hog actually. And he goes home and his mom's like, you're a dumb piece of shit. You'll never be anything. And you're just out all night. She's not very nice to him. And he's like, I'll be special, Mom. You don't know how good I can be. And then he leaves. And then now he's fully into the world, right? And he goes and he's with Jack. And Jack is like showing him his luxurious 70s swanky house with his pool. And it's like his buddy Reed he meets this guy Reed and they're like rival friends. Played by John C. Reilly, who's fantastic. He meets Buck, the black country western dude played by Don Cheadle, who's amazing.
We're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into Don Cheadle's
I love
character.
Buck so
amazing.
much, man.
All
He's
right.
so good. Anyway, so he meets this whole crew. He meets Scotty, Philip Seymour Hoffman, R.I.P. The whole shebang. It's very, it's great. And he's seeing the glamour of the lifestyle. There's money. It's fast. They're in the pool. They're having fun. Everyone's young and sexy. And he starts getting into the actual porn industry, like legit. And he changes his name to Dirk Diggler because that's going to be his screen name. And he kind of takes on this persona. And he just ends up just going. They keep saying he grows and grows and grows. He wins fucking porn awards. He gets his own place. He's got Italian leather shoes and like he's living the dream, Meanwhile, everyone's all kind of trying to figure it out. And little Bill. Come the 80s, like everything's going okay, and then Little Bill, who's played by William H. Macy, is the sound guy for the crew that constantly is getting shit on for laughs by his wife, just constantly completely embarrassing him and disrespecting him. Yeah, ultimate, yeah. And so, but he kills his wife and himself at the Jack's New Year's Eve party, and that's sort of the turning point and then it goes into the 80s. Going in the 80s, it started the downfall, which we all know is true to life. Starts going into it, and yeah, it's like they're trying to get Jack to switch over to VHS tape, and he's not about it. And now Amber gets Dirk now addicted to cocaine, and so he's like really on cocaine now, and he thinks he's cool. And it slowly goes. He meets Todd, who's played by Tom Jane. This cast is stacked. He's played by Tom Jane.
Dude, yeah. It's
and
crazy.
they go, and Scotty's in love with Dirk, but it never is going to happen. And slowly things kind of start not working. Jack gets a fresh new guy on the street, and Dirk's all fucking coked out and like, oh, I'm the biggest movie star there ever was. Like, what? And so him and Jack have a falling out, and he's like, whatever, I'm the best. And so he's like, I don't want you around here anymore. So his porn career blows up. And he's like, whatever, I'm special. And so he tries to start a music career and like do karate and cocaine, and none of it's working for him. He's terrible at it. And Jack's having his downfall too. He begrudgingly does switch to videotape, and they're all kind of going in their low moments. Buck's out of it. Fucking Reed is with him and coke, and now they're just in with Todd, who's like a terrible influence on them. And it gets to the point where Dirk is back jacking off for $10 for some random guy in a parking lot because he's falling down, and Roller Girl is just getting shat on by fucking random dudes former classmates. But it's obviously the low point, sort of. And then, but before we get to the, they can redeem themselves, you got to have Dirk's ultimate low. He goes with Todd and Reed to go rob a drug dealer because that's their brilliant plan. They go and they're like, we're going to give him a bag of baby powder and it's going to work. And, and they go there, and Todd's like, okay, we get the money, but he gets greedy and he's like, no, I want what's in the floor safe. And there's a big shootout, and Jesse's girl plays, and it's fantastic. And, they get away, but it's not good times. And eventually, Dirk goes crawling back to Jack, and Jack, he takes him in, and even though Jack's not where he wants to be too, it's like that reminds Jack of when he was at his peak too, and so they kind of come together, and Meanwhile, Buck, I forget the other girl, his wife's name, but she's pregnant, and he keeps trying to get out of the porn industry, and he can't. But he witnesses a fucking murder in the middle of a robbery gone wrong, and he takes the money, and he opens up his stereo store and changes who he is at his core in order to be, profitable. And everyone kind of comes together, having grown and learned, and it's more of a familial ending. And but Dirk is still just living on the high of just his big dick, and that's all. That's who he is. It's like
Right.
he's
I mean,
such a shallow
great
person.
Well, it's fantastic, like character, not growth, but just character realization and like who he is, and like he's stuck with that. Like literally, his dick is his one special thing, and the last shot we see in the whole movie is he pulls it out and he gives it
Very
a pep talk,
famous ending where he
gives him-
pulls his dick out, stares at it in the mirror, right?
Gives himself the pep talk and like does like the like karate stance, and the like one karate move. It's very akin to like a Jet Li style,
He's still
Bruce
still
Lee,
a
whatever.
kid essentially.
Like-
I mean, yeah, he's like mid-20s or something
Right.
at this point, but like
but still
from his first conversation when his girlfriend back in his childhood home is like, your dick's so special, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna be a star, I'm gonna be a bright shining star. And it's like he's still so much hanging on to that dream of like, that's who he is. Everyone has their one special thing, and this is what I was made for. And it's like the longevity, like it's sad to say, because even though you like
feel
come
like
around,
I feel like it's one of the happiest endings that like Paul Thomas
it's
Anderson has done.
fair. It's
Like,
it's
I mean,
bittersweet.
A lot of us actually are.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
bittersweet. But I mean,
because
I feel like when they do that one shot and they go through and like
so good.
everybody is kind of they're not where they want to be 100%.
No, but
But they've created this like surrogate family that's
So
really, really tight and really
fucking-
there for them.
I love that ending shot.
Yeah.
So good with like the organ
That-
music, and Buck's like, "Hey
That
man,
is so good.
he's like, it's not gonna be loud. And he's like, I don't want it loud. What do I want it to be, baby? And he's like, mellow. That's right, mellow.
Hello.
Yeah.
And he's like telling Roller Girl, he's like, he's like, go clean up your
Yeah.
room.
Move your
Like-
dirt from one side of your room to the other side. So good.
Yeah.
Then-
And like, dude, it's
They just like,
choreographed
I don't know,
so well.
but it's
Like,
it's so good. But like the codependency of this group, like they do kind of create this family, but it's just like Jack is giving Amber affirmation, and that's where she gets her fulfillment. But it's like he's like, what are you looking at? And he's like, I'm looking at the sexiest bitch in the world, and she's just like, she's still trying to find her worth because she's like, it's a failed mom. It's so good. I love this fucking movie, man.
it's really good. Well, and it just goes to show like the arm's length emotionally that everybody is at. Like they're at like their capacity to be vulnerable, and it's done so well, and it's so subtle. And the fact that Paul Thomas Anderson was like 25 when he was like 20, or no, he was like 17 when he wrote this.
Yeah.
Like because he did. If you go to Reddit, r/coldest of knowledge, there I posted like the Dirk Diggler
the
story,
short
which is, like,
film he did originally.
which is the short he did that when he was like 18 or something, 17, 18, and he like because of that he has been working on that script since then to build this movie.
Which
He's
is
been trying to,
fantastic. I'm
write
like,
this film forever.
I'm
So, yeah.
offended that because it's like he made this when he's like 26 or whatever, and I'm offended.
dude.
And it's
Oh,
like
so young.
his first movie was a couple years earlier, Hard Eight, which was pretty good too. Like I would consider probably maybe his weakest movie, but it's just because he was figuring it out. It's still pretty good, but like this movie. So, what was your? I mean, obviously you've seen this movie several times. I know. Do you remember when you first saw it? Like, what were your first impressions? And then, like, how does it stand up now watching it again? Like, I don't know how long it's been, but
I saw this. I'm trying to remember. I might have seen Punch Drunk Love first, and then went back to this, or you told me about this movie in high school, and I saw this first, and then Punch Drunk Love. That it's like that the trajectory of that I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Either way, I like remember being in more like I remember liking Punch Drunk Love more than this, because like obviously it's a little more mature, and it's just like a completely different story. It's more of a character study about one relationship.
yeah,
you know,
it's
than where
definitely
this is an ensemble.
It's definitely more focused. I'll
Yeah.
give you that for sure.
Of course, no, but now like I mean recency bias aside, just now of watching this movie, I'm like I appreciate it so much more because I've probably only seen this. This is probably my third time, honestly. I saw it on your recommendation, like in high school, and then I saw it probably another, after high school, maybe in my early 20s, and then now. And so it's like I feel like the second time I watched it, liking it and just being like, oh, it's got great momentum, and and it's funnier than I remember. But now watching it, I'm like, oh my god, it's like smart. It's really well written. It's edited like. It's mastercraft in editing, and it's a comedy. Like it is. It's crazy. Like I feel like it's
both a comedy
drama
and a
first.
tragedy. It's a comedy and a tragedy because it's just like the comedy's played so straight that you laugh, but it's played so straight that these characters don't have any self-awareness. Like there's no like weird meta shit. It's like they are like they're ridiculous humans if you stand back and look at it, especially some of their lines that they do so especially early on. But it's like once things start happening to them and you start developing them as a character, you're like, oh, all the shit that was funny is still funny, but it's also deeply tragic. That it's just like these people are just they're such like broken humans, and they're such fucking just trying, like especially the younger guys like Reed and Dirk and everyone, like they're trying so hard to have an identity, and they just can't. They're so shallow that it's just like they're trying so hard to like, this is who I am, and that's why Dirk is so just like he's as shallow as a puddle because he is just what he likes, and he's his dick. That's where he gets his worth from, man. But yeah, dude, I definitely saw. So I saw this movie originally back in like when I was like 15 or whatever, and it blew my tits off. I absolutely fucking loved it. Yeah, and I'm sure I told you about it. And then I'm surprised because Paul Thomas Anderson is probably my favorite director. As we've talked about, go listen to the Master episode. And then, but like, I'm surprised I actually watched this like his career in order because I was like, except for Hard Eight, because I was like, oh okay. I loved this movie, and then by the time I saw this movie, Magnolia and Punch Drunk Love were out. So I'd watch Magnolia, then I watched Punch Drunk Love, and then I went back to Hard Eight, and I was like, this guy fucking rules, because I think this movie's a 10 out of 10, and I think Punch Drunk Love is a 10 out of 10. Like, I think they're both masterpieces. And then
100%.
But then, like in high school, he dropped There Will Be Blood, and I'm like, what is this guy doing? This guy's out of control.
No, don't get me wrong. When I saw There Will Be Blood in theaters, I was like, oh, so this is what this guy's working with. Like, this is like, and it's funny because I couldn't even comprehend what I was watching at the moment, and so like it definitely because we did There Will Be Blood.
We did. I was wondering. I was like, kind of forgot if we did it or not. We did. Yeah.
We totally did. And like, I want to say I know this is at least the third, or obviously the third.
Yeah.
But we might have done another Paul Thomas Anderson, but I don't think so. I think this is just it.
No, I keep wanting to do
like, 9 movies.
Yeah, I keep wanting to do Phantom Thread because I want to rewatch.
If
I'm ready for a
of
rewatch
Phantom
Thread.
And we put for like Noir Month, I think, or like Detective Month or something. We put.
I did put Inherent Vice before.
Inherent Vice. But anyways, I would love to go through his filmography because it's like
I watched Punch Drunk Love
and it's cool
last year, dude. Again, and I'm like, that movie. That's the thing about Paul Thomas Anderson, dude. That's why I'm juicing. Is like every movie I watch of his. I mean, like most of his movies. Like I still think like, Licorice Pizza and Magnolia are like great films, but they're not like masterpieces in my mind, like some of the other ones. But like. Every time, like when I watched The Master, I was like, fuck, The Master is my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie. And then I watched Boogie Nights, I'm like, Boogie Nights is my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Yeah. Now it's Punch Drunk Love. Now it's There Will Be Blood. Like, it just goes to show. I don't know. That's me. But that's like such my taste, because he is like, he's also a writer-director, which is very impressive, and he's less flashy. Like, he's still got his own style, but he's less flashy than like Tarantino or something. A little bit more nuanced and varied in his style.
Oh, right, of course. Yeah, and I definitely feel like...
Well, him and Tarantino are like buds, because we've talked about before.
Now,
we went and... Now
they are.
Now. But we went and saw, when I lived in Hollywood, we went and saw the double feature at Tarantino's theater of There Will Be Blood and Punch Drunk Love.
And Punch Drunk Love, right?
And I walked out in a fury because everyone was laughing their asses off and There Will Be Blood, and it pissed me off.
That was the weirdest interaction of human beings in a movie I've ever been in, dude. Like, people were laughing at There Will Be Blood at the weirdest
It was like
times.
Mystery Science Theater, dude. Like, they were
we talk about it when we do the movie. We've done that episode.
We did. Go listen.
There Will Be Blood had its spotlight. It's a great movie. But yeah, so it's like Quentin Tarantino it's so funny. I was watching interviews with Paul Thomas Anderson, and everyone was like, oh, we're comparing you to Pulp Fiction. We're comparing you to Quentin Tarantino. Like, you're the next Quentin Tarantino. Because this movie does have a lot of that energy. But I was like, no, like Quentin Tarantino has his own style, but like this is Scorsese because that's what he said.
He
in the
was
interview. He was
channeling Scorsese, which he's 26. You know, he's trying to find his voice, and it's like, even though this movie is definitely his style, you can tell he's young. This movie is like way more raw than, like, a little less refined. I will admit, even though I absolutely think it's incredible, it's less refined than some of his later movies for sure.
And I would say budgetary restraint.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
for sure.
But honestly, I think it's not even budgetary as much as just the time period of what you're reflecting. I mean, this is like Goodfellas came out in '90, and so it's like that Goodfellas is like revolutionary, and it's amazing, and like people loved it, and Scorsese is already, you know,
go listen to that
legend,
episode.
So, right, yeah. So we gush about that movie, and so it's like this movie feels. I mean, this is kind of like a love letter to Goodfellas, and it's kind of a love letter to a lot of things Paul Thomas Anderson was affected by, and the porn industry is such a important thing to him, which is so weird. Like, it's so weird to have that idea, because I don't know, he did a bunch of research for this movie, obviously, that shows there are a bunch of film directors and actresses and production companies and stuff that he kind of emulating to make this movie appropriate.
Yeah.
But I love that the criticism that he got from the porn industry is the fact that they made him too much of a superstar. That's one of the biggest critiques. Is no one ever got as popular as Dirk Diggler did.
Right, because even John Holmes, who is like Dirk, they talk about him in the movie kind of, but it's like Dirk Diggler's sort of inspired by him, right? And even him, it's like he was famous within those circles. Certainly, I mean, obviously we weren't alive during the time, but just from historical, what we know about it. But it's like, he also became more infamous in retrospect than in the moment. And so I do think that, I mean, it makes sense that the people in the porn industry were giving him shit a little bit, because he definitely seems like he's looking at the porn industry in the 70s from the 90s, with his rose tinted glasses. I mean, not within how bad it can be, and exploitative, but had the fame and all that. It's because by the it'd gone through the fucking VHS boom where porn became $1 billion industry between the 70s and the 90s. I mean, not till the internet that it become $1 billion, but it's porn just becomes more and more accessible and easier to make as time goes on. And so he's definitely looking at
home video was people. I don't remember what year it was, but it's 9% of people had VHS players in their home, and then by 1990 it was 99% of people, or something 98% of people. It was crazy how it changed.
And that's we've talked about before. It's Paul Thomas Anderson probably also owes a big part of his career, and most of the dudes from the late 80s and into the 90s owe their fucking careers to the success of home video, especially 90s independent filmmakers like Tarantino and independent I use with quotes, but Tarantino and fucking Kevin Smith and stuff, and David Soderbergh and all that. It's all those guys. It's it's the VHS. They needed it for sure. It's people don't realize how, I don't know. I miss home video, honestly. I miss going down to the Blockbuster, man.
No, I definitely have a nostalgia twinge for that. I mean, I feel like it's exhausting, because with VHS, just capitalism, man. It just sucks. It's we could have such a perfect thing, and then it just fails. Because streaming was awesome, but now it's streaming has become so bloated, and it's
I'm gonna go full hipster, dude, and I'm gonna get my porn, and I'm gonna transfer it to VHS tape.
Oh, hell yeah, dude!
Yeah.
Just get your stag films on 16 millimeter, and then shoot that on digital, and then transcribe it to VHS. That'd be sick, dude.
That'd be good.
That'd be the way to do it, man. Anyway. Bring it back. Have contemporary porn on VHS.
But if I was a real bro, if I was a real bro, I'd go do it 16 millimeter like these guys,
Right.
Which it's so good too, because not only is this deep dive into the porn industry, which it so is, but it's also such a love letter to just cinema in general. because it's like the way they just
Right.
show like filmmaking is like that's something I noticed way more on this rewatch. Is like before I'm like it's the characters and it's the porn industry and like fucking the familial type relationships, but yeah, this time I was a little bit more like. I really like the scene when I forget the dude's name, but the cinematographer is talking to Little Bill, and he's like, "Hey, I was talking about the shoot tomorrow, blah 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 blah," you know. And he's like, "Hey, well, fuck, it's just the integrity of the movie, you know." And they're just talking about the filmmaking of it. I'm like,
Yeah,
I've had
right,
that
the
conversation,
equipment.
you know.
Yeah,
when
no,
I-
that's something I loved about it. Is I think it's Paul Thomas Anderson kind of showing you that like the independent film circuit kind of owes its like legwork to the porn industry.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
the 90s like with that film boom, like you were saying, it's like that wouldn't really be like established, you know, how it was without like having these like X-rated films, because like, you know, and then like, the 70s obviously it's like a cascading effect, but like
Yeah.
still it's just like
Well,
going,
Hunter-
like shooting more independent.
I mean, it even 100%. It even shows it in this. That it's just like all the guys from the crew, because it's like very much this family is this film production crew too, and like the film production guys are like, you know, more like the cousins of the family. They're there, but they're more side characters. But like, you know, they're filming all the porn movies, but then near the end, it's like they film that documentary with Amber, and then they film that commercial, and it's like, I like to imagine by the late 80s, those guys are working in commercials, you know what I mean? And then like maybe working in independent film, and Amber becomes like a fucking independent director, and then Dirk Diggler kills himself probably.
Probably, yeah. Well, I feel like the sad thing. Yeah, that's the one thing about this watch is it seemed a little too idyllic, and so like I was like, it's fine. Like that's like it's not it doesn't need to be Goodfellas where like paranoia and like they get, you know, like the whole everything comes crumbling down on them. That's actually something I appreciate. Where this is like this is kind of the anti rise and fall. Like this is the rise.
You're
and then the hiccup.
crazy, man.
Dude. Totally 100%, man. What are you talking about?
This
Like,
is way darker than Goodfellas. Like,
really? I
they
don't know.
get down
feel
to
like
the
it's such a happy
lowest,
ending.
the lowest lows. Them coming together. Are you not listening to that beautiful organ music? It is bittersweet. It is a calm moment in these guys' tumultuous life that like it's not gonna stay like this. This is just like, you know,
No,
Dirk Diggler with his
I feel
dick. Like it's like Jack's gonna die soon. Dirk Diggler is going to be too old to fuck, and they're trying to make a comeback, and it's going to blow up in their face probably. Like, but this is just like one moment apiece. Like, it does kind of come back around, but it's like fucking. And I love Goodfellas, but at the end of Goodfellas, Ray Liotta like basically winks in the camera and is like, "Well, you know, I never wanted to be." I always wanted to be a gangster, but now I'm, you know, a fucking regular guy, and I'm getting the paper. So shucks, you know. It's like isn't life kooky? And I'm like, this movie, it's just like, oh no, the only solace we get is in this family that we make and these relationships that we build together. That is idyllic in that way, but it's just like who these people are. It's like, I don't know, man. It just seems like such a fragile fucking instance.
Sure,
of their
fragile,
life.
fragile for sure. And Amber's kind of like Amber Waves is the main. She's like the main. She's the shaky pillar.
She's the mom
that's holding everyone up. Because like, right, of course, she like.
I mean,
the
obviously,
matriarch,
literally, they're like, "Please be my mommy." Like,
I know. Oh my god, that's such a good scene too. That's like that. It's so like heartbreaking, but so accurate to like drug use and just the like and like just the vulnerability they have, you know. And it's like it's just heightened by drugs. But anyways, at the end, it's like I interpret it, I guess, as like he comes back and he's basically like, help me. And he's like, help me like get clean. And I'm assuming there's like an ultimatum where it's like, okay, you're going to come back and you'll be my star. But like, I need you to kind of like ship up and fly right and be like straight. And so like, I feel like if he has some good years on that, you know,
Yeah.
that will build.
I think
But
they got
Amber's
a
the one
good
where I'm
year
like,
or
she
two.
might break down.
Yeah, she's not gonna make it.
I don't know. I
Buck,
see it as
Buck's
gonna
like, make it,
hopeful.
and that's it. Because like,
Well, yeah, because Buck's the magician now, dude.
I know it's not as no.
Oh,
That's
not
Reed.
Buck. Oh, no,
Reed.
duh. Oh,
Buck's gonna
yeah.
make it with Buck's Super Stereo World,
No,
right?
and that Buck had the happiest ending of everybody. Like he had to witness trauma, but then he was able to like find his identity, and so I really appreciate that. That's dude. When we got Buck's one of my favorite characters throughout this.
I mean, he did have the happiest ending, but dude, he did not find his identity. He turned
can't-
his
I
back
kinda-
on
yeah.
who he is. He did it, and that's so much what this movie is just like making sacrifices to who you are in order to be who you want to be or who you need to be. And it's like everyone's so busy about like like how they're perceived, and it's like that's why Buck is so good, is because the whole movie he's in this conflict about he's looking for his identity, and he's got that weird Egyptian look, but he's like, no,
Yeah, that's so good.
I'm fucking cowboy. This is what I like. This is my shit. But then he's like, I don't want to go. They're like, what kind of brother are you? You know, because he's like likes country music, and so, but like, it is happy that he gets his dream, but he has to sacrifice a little piece of himself to do it. And that's where I see like the hardships, because it's like even Jack, you don't go. It's not like Dirk, where Jack's jerking off in a parking lot and then gets beat up by a bunch of guys to some harrowing ass fucking bell chiming music. But like Jack, you know, he beats the fuck out of that guy on the street, and it's like he never comes out and says it, but he needs Dirk just as much as Dirk needs him, man. And it's like that's why they go back and they make another Brocklanders movie. It's like the Brocklanders come back, and that's what they're doing at the end. But it's like low key, and he's like, oh yeah, you know, he's doing his lines, practicing to be Brocklanders, and it's like, it's like Jack's even trying to cling to his legacy. Like it's sad. It's, to me, it's deeply sad. It's deeply.
Oh no, I think they can be sad characters. They're definitely sad, flawed characters. I just feel like it's cheeky, like with Paul Thomas
Full of cheeky
filmmaking,
yeah.
where it's like this isn't this, like they are the low point's done, like that, like he has that title card that's just like, can't remember exactly what it says, but it's just like, you know, it didn't get, you know, it's like that was the low point. It gets a little bit lower, and that's like it, you know, like that's it comes over like kind of a funny title card.
Yeah, it was like
And then
one
they do
more
the
time
drug
around,
deal.
and then it's the drug deal.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah, and it's like, the drug deal like
this
shows them. But real quick, I just want to say that I think that Buck does find his identity. That hip hop thing
As a
making the
family man.
commercial, is it? Yes, that's what I mean. The commercial isn't his identity. Not that's a product,
Yeah.
and he's selling that product. But him as the family man, when he's in there building the stereo system for him, he's dressed like just a dude.
Yeah.
And he's got his kid, you know, and it's like he's got his wife. So that I'm like, he did find his, he
100%.
found his piece.
No, I agree, because
That's my-
I think that's kind of like the summation of this whole movie. Even though I guess you'd call Dirk the main character, it's like it is a coming of age in a way for Dirk, but the whole movie feels like this kind of coming of age, because like even and like different stages of life too.
That's
with
why
the
I say
different
it's like mainly rise. Like it does have fall, but it's very like it's just I don't know.
No, it's
I
fall,
think it
and
has a lot
because
more
of
rise,
yeah, exactly. It is, but it's because it's just life. You know, their life is hard, and they're hard-broken people, but it's real, and it's about finding like these moments of happiness in between, and trying to find fulfillment, which is what we're all trying to do. But it's like, yeah, even Buck, it's like he probably. I mean, I don't know. This is just us spitballing. It's like, he gave up a piece of himself to be successful, right? But that can definitely seen as a sacrifice of growth. It's like he is now a family man. He needs to provide, like he's finding more worth in his identity as just being who he is, you know, but like he's not so concerned, like he's willing to make that sacrifice to who he was to be who he needs to become, you know? And I feel like that's this whole movie though. Like that's the whole movie is like, you have to fucking go through hell to like come back out as a changed and better person in order to grow. And in that way it is very uplifting, because it's like I think that's why I say bittersweet, is because it is somber.
Yeah.
It feels very somber to me, but also it is very much like these are the growing pains, you know what I mean, of all acts of life, because it's like, you know, there's all different age groups, and that's what's cool too. It's like everyone's a different age, and like
right, and actually that was kind of that'd be like my only critique, is that it kind of just seemed like everyone was kind of equal. Like they did the like father and son role between them, but like I don't know, they just didn't make him seem young enough. But I mean that literally doesn't really matter. It's like they do at certain points.
Yeah.
They do enough.
the
of it
beginning he
that
seems
I'm
super
like,
young, and then after that you kind of forget how young he is.
Right. I think that's that's just kind of the part of it where like, but I would notice it though at times where like there'd be scenes happening, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's acting older than he is, but he's not like You know, and I think he's like numbed to it.
Oh
too,
yeah,
with drugs
for
and stuff,
sure.
but-
That makes you older, and everyone looks older in the past, you know, because just we're
Yeah.
used to seeing old people in like that look. But it's interesting for Mark Wahlberg because it's like I wish I could have been, because obviously when this movie was released we were children, but like we didn't see it till later. But I wonder what the perception, all my Gen X homies out there like and all that, what was it like seeing Mark Wahlberg from Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, the pop star, go into like, because this is like kind of his big break into film, to be like, he's like, yeah, my big cock and all this, you know what I mean? Like, and then now it's like Mark Wahlberg, it's like people forget he even did this movie unless you're like a film guy. And now he's just Mark Wahlberg. I don't know.
Dude, I love that like two fantastic Mark Wahlberg facts. One, he's like Catholic as fuck. Like he's so religious that like he's nervous about this film. He's like afraid that God won't let him into heaven because he made this movie. And
he won't. God will not forgive you, Mark.
I mean, God probably won't. But I
hope not.
It's just funny how through his whole life he's had to be reassured that his faith isn't tested. It's not. He hasn't been shooketh because of this movie. But anyway,
he needs to be like, you're good. You're good. He needs the affirmation, just like Dirk.
He's afraid. He really is afraid of what his children are going to think too. That's really funny. But another great fact, he doesn't hate this movie that much or anything like that. He doesn't disown this movie, but he still has the prosthetic dick, and it is starting to disintegrate. It's starting to fall apart. In an interview, he was talking about how it's like, oh, it's falling. It's like, yeah, it falls apart on me, and I'm like, it's amazing. That's great. I wonder if like 10 years after he tried it on, like
he just looks at it in the mirror every now and again. He's just a little drunk, It's just like, hey,
yeah, exactly.
It's me again, old friend.
But I love watching it on watching this watch through. I was like, oh wow, this like really isn't about the porn industry, or it's like it isn't pornographic at all. Like I really am just like,
it's about the porn industry in the way that fucking There Will Be Blood is about the oil industry. Like it's not really. That's just kind of the capsule that it comes in. You know what I mean?
That's their.
It's not like a critique on pornography. It's not like really saying like that much about porn one way or another. So much other than it's just like, at the time it was definitely people were prejudiced against because of it, and so these outcasts had to kind of come together because they were in that group together, and that's porn is the thing that brought them together as a family.
And that was something I was like, I'm surprised they didn't get into it too much, but they kind of like it's like really on the periphery, but when they talk, they don't really talk about how like it became like illegal. Like I mean, and porn has always kind of it's always been like taboo to shoot porn, but in the 70s it was like you could still like shoot in warehouses and stuff, and like you'd still shoot on sound stages, and like it just wasn't as bad. But like getting into the 80s, you had to be more underground, and like they had their own warehouse, and that's what was cool to see when he had the video distribution warehouse,
right?
In the 80s, and then it was like that's got like his sound stages in it too, so it's kind of like his own. He definitely got more money through VHS,
Oh yeah, as he would. That's why he couldn't fight change. They were Colonel and the other guy were right. No, if you liked this, watch this. Something I can't would be the perfect parallel to watch with this is the series, the HBO series, The Deuce. I cannot recommend it enough. It's created by David Simon, the guy who created The Wire, but it's about the porn industry and like everyone in it and how it started illegally, because the first season takes place in the 70s, and about how they were getting like prostitutes to be filmed and then like would do all this stuff in New York. And each season, like the first season's like the 70s, the next season's like the early 80s, and then the third season, there's only 3 seasons, and the third season's like the late 80s. And it does a really good job of like going and taking the characters through the growth of the porn industry, and like it is a little bit more involved about what the porn industry is and what it did to some people, how it's the good and the bad, but it's great. It's really good. I kind of want to rewatch it because I really loved it. So cannot recommend that enough. I know it's a whole entire series as opposed to that. I can't really say it's a double. This would be a great double feature, but if you were interested in like that era of that kind of shit, please watch it.
Like a serious insight, like a
Well, I mean, it's just a good written show. It's by the creator of The Wire. Like it's just a great written show with great characters. So check out The Deuce, HBO. that show slept on. So anyway, this what
and yeah.
what was your? I'm just jumping the gun, but I just want to make sure we get to these because I could ramble about this movie all day. But
I know. I literally.
if you're watching the YouTube, you can
all
see
these notes.
I have a Boogie Nights poster literally right behind me.
Right, and it's a good poster too. Like,
Dude, this is from the
his
Tower.
room.
One of the last times I saw Boogie Nights was at the Tower Theater, where I got this poster. High on acid.
Shout out to the Tower. Well, that's appropriate.
Yeah, I was tripping, and I went and saw it with
I guess
saw it with Patrick and Chet. Anyway,
They only ever do like dusty drugs in this movie. They don't really smoke weed or like do acid. But
that's true. Yeah, it's just like fucking.
Yeah.
You know,
they do some like angel dust later, and he's
yeah,
like,
he does crank. I know. He's like, don't snort that crystal. He's like, oh, it fucking burns, man. I'm getting super high.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
other than the amazing tension-filled, drug-filled shootout at the end, what's your favorite scene? What's your favorite part?
Right. That it is the walkthrough. That the ending. So it only really like this movie has like a bunch of one-ers, like just the single shot choreographed scene where everyone's in it and they're all waiting for their cue, and it's like really lively. That happens like 5 times in this movie. Like it's a lot.
It does,
and it's Paul Thomas. It's kind of Paul Thomas Anderson's like staple. Like he does.
It sort of
a
is.
lot,
Yeah, his big long shots that like has so many moving pieces because it's multiple characters. It's not just like following. Because that's the thing. A lot of long shots follow one character for a long time.
Right.
This one's like
he's like shooting
one character to the next. Yeah, it's like character
it's
introduction.
awesome.
That first opening scene is incredible too in the disco. Like, yeah, he does it. He does it a ton of times.
And I love it in his interview how he's like he totally is just like, and he in this interview he was 26. You know, he was giving this interview right after or for it was the publicity push for this movie, and he's doing an interview, and he's like you got to do that big flashy shot right at the beginning, because it's just like he's like I'm a filmmaker, look at me do it. You know, I'm actually like I'm directing this movie, like, and it's so that's so like passionate and so like endearing to hear him talk about how like excited he is about film, like, and he's cool because he's one of those like don't go to film school kind of guys, and I'm 100% down for that. You know, go to film school if you want to, whatever. Yeah. But he's like you'll learn more if you just go and make film. Like that's. I just like him because he's cool. It's like Quentin Tarantino is like his like the other side of the coin, but he's like, you know, Paul Thomas Anderson is quietly pretentious. You know what I mean? Yeah, like, right, exactly. 100%.
But like, you know, back when he made this movie when he was 26, and it's like it has a youthful energy to it, like especially with like all the shootouts and like the huge crazy like push-ins of the dolly shots and like all this. But it's like it is surprisingly retrospective from like a more mature position, especially like with Jack and Amber and like their more adult situations and like having a discussion about like basically being about like, because Jack's arc is about legacy, you know what I mean? And it's interesting that such a young dude, because I mean like when I was 26, I was like I knew about that stuff from watching movies, which I'm sure was like him, right. Which is why I ever like it. But yeah, no, that end. Since there were so many one-shots, that end one-shot, like, kind of is, like, a callback. Because so many of them happen in that house, too.
Right.
It does really feel like a final, like, everyone going around, having that scene, very organic, very when everyone being together. And it's just, like, the blocking and the dialogue. It's like, is he going to piss in the pool? You know, like...
I know, right.
The ending is great.
That's why I like it. It's like... They are like they're misfits and they got their family.
It's a great ending. It does. Right. Even though I was talking like, oh, it's sad and the repercussions and stuff. It's because I've seen this movie like 10 times. But it's like, it leaves a warm spot in your stomach where you're just like a little bit of a smile. You know, you're like, you know what, everything's gonna be all right for now. You know what I mean? And that's all we can hope for. You know?
Right. Which is like I feel like they got their footing, and it's cool to see like Dirk grow up a little bit, you know. Yeah. But it's like it's so stylized. I know. I mean, who knows?
He'll never change.
It's funny. They wanted to make a sequel. Like studios were asking him to do a sequel to this, and he was like, Paul Thomas Anderson was like, A, I don't do sequels. And B, no, like why?
Can you imagine?
Like, he doesn't want anyone doing it? I know, it would be the dumbest thing.
There will be blood too, you know.
Well, no, actually, this is if any of his movies warrant a sequel, this would be one of them. This honestly would be probably one of the best ones to make a sequel to, because it's a follow up to their lives, you know. But like in a Maxine style or something like that, like, or just making it like you know, but I don't want it. I'm not. This is nothing. I'm definitely like
Out of all
we're
those
not,
movies,
we're not
though,
really big
you're
sequel
right.
guys.
Yeah.
Anyways, but like out of all of his movies, this kind of Master maybe kind of could, but it's like we don't need that. Anyways.
No,
Anyways,
it's God, it's so good. I was like Phantom Thread. They're
what's
just
your
like,
favorite
what are they?
scene?
So
couldn't do that. I guess they get older.
all the
to
big.
be up.
Well, that's the thing. It's like this movie has so many great like montages, but like so many big scenes that are just so good. Like the opening scene is so good. The fucking first pool party scene, which is that huge long shot where it goes into the pool.
That's
so
into the pool.
good.
That's really good.
And it's like the funky music and all that, and they're Amber's doing coke, and her kid tries to call, but it's like so many. The New Year's party is super intense when fucking William H. Macy blows his brains out, but like.
God, yeah, those are all the wonders, dude. Those
They're
wonders
so,
are so good.
Well, it's because they're like fucking. I mean, the scenes are long. The wonders are long too, but the scenes are like they're chunky, right? But the scene that always gets me, and it's much smaller, but it's like that's when it really starts to turn into a bummer, kind of like when you're like, because early on it's quite funny, dude. Like I was laughing a lot. I always forget how funny this is because the back half is not as funny. Like it's got its funny moment,
but it's got funny editing. Like when it shows like it's like the sausage the next morning grilling and the coffee, like that slam those like smash cuts together. It's hilarious.
And the
like,
documentary when he's like, "Oh yeah, Jack lets me block my own scenes," and he's like, "I don't let him block his own scenes."
I don't let him block his. And that documentary is like. It's so cool when he's like when Napoleon was king and like just talking like
that documentary.
He's so dumb.
That's the thing. It's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
But
it's so vulnerable.
But
everything has like a vulnerability.
That's what's great.
Where Amber's like, "Do you think it's good?" Like I wanted to show you first because it's like just like that. She's like, and it's cool because that she's got this like fucked up relationship where she's like, "I want to fuck that dick, but you're my son." So it's like,
I know literally. She's like, "I love you like a son. Come inside me." You know.
Yeah. Right.
Which I can get why he's scared that that God is gonna not let him into heaven because of this movie.
I know. Yeah, Mark, dude. But anyways, what's your favorite scene?
When Amber misses out, she goes to have that meeting with her like for the custody of her kid, and they're just like immediately like it's like she's just fighting so hard, and then the judge is like, "So have you ever been arrested?" And she's like, "Yeah," and like it's just lost, and then it's just her full on ugly just sobbing outside the courthouse. It's just like pretty tight shot, which is like not tight, it's a good medium, but like it's just on her against this brick wall just being absolutely devastated, and it's just like it's like crushing and such a good moment for her character. And it's just like that's the one that made me realize, because it's like earlier on I'm having fun, it's about the up, everything's coming up like all these movies do, all the Scorsese movies do. It's like the rise, then the fall. It's like this is the start of the fall, but it's like all the characters are so genuine and so vulnerable. You're kind of like laughing at them early on, and they're like, because they're like, he's doing kung fu moves. Like that's something they would do in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, right? You know what I mean? Like as a joke, but it's like, there are jokes in here and it's very funny, but then it's just like, oh, that hits harder than you're like, you know what? These people, like, it's just not, I don't know. Like that's just when I start to realize I'm like, oh,
right.
It's
the industry
actually
they're in is kind of swallowing them up.
Well, when you stop to think about what you think is funny, when you think hard enough about it, and you're like, if you knew a guy that was like that, and you actually, like, one person would laugh at him, and then the other person would be like, that's actually fucked up, man. It's like, I feel bad for him. And that's where that turned for me, where it's just like, it went from like, I'm laughing at them, I'm laughing with them, and now I'm like, actually, I feel kind of bad for these guys. You know what I mean? And Julianne Moore just rules. You know what I mean? So it's like,
oh my God,
she's
dude,
so good.
She is so good,
dude,
in this movie.
Everyone,
like, it is bonkers.
The acting in this movie,
and this is
across the shelf.
This is Burt Reynolds. No matter how much he hates this film,
I know.
Which rip, but like kind of like get flipped too, because I don't get.
I know, it's his best one.
You're he's like, Burt Reynolds is so like, B tier, and just like he is so good in this movie. He got the Academy Award nom. Like it's like all well deserved too. It's not even just like an honorary. Like it is straight up. Like he earned it, because his fucking character in this movie is so strong. It's so nuanced, and it really like it's really cool. Like I'm just like, oh my God, like Burt Reynolds is like a good actor.
He is,
even though
he's so good.
Even though he's never really proved it in the past. But
I know. I mean, he's good in
it's,
his early days, like Deliverance, but like even then,
Yeah, right.
even then, it's like this
And he
blows
gets-
this blows Deliverance out of the water for me. But
Right, hardcore, yeah. So it's like because it is just, I mean, it is the mature character that
I know.
he plays. Like it works so well.
can we talk about just briefly my main boy, Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's probably like one of my,
Oh my
he's
God.
top 3, top 5
He-
favorite actors. All right, he's
No,
like the
I
one that
was
is
thinking about
saddest
it.
he's gone. He's so good at this,
He
man.
shows up when he shows up, and he shows up like 30 minutes into the movie or
Yeah.
something like that. He shows up late, and the second he walks in, and I'm like, he is acting circles around everyone else, and he's only in this movie for like 15 minutes. Like he gets so little screen time, but every time he's in it,
I know.
he's so good.
Well,
it's crazy, dude.
He's so
Oh.
fucking good, dude. But it's brutal because it's like he comes in, you think he's going to be part of this ensemble cast, and then he has this, he blows it with Dirk, and he's like, it's fucking stupid, you know? And then I kind of forget that he's still in the movie because he's in the movie a ton after that, but it's always just in the background. Like he's just in the background. He's got a couple things. He speaks up when they're planning the robbery, and you're like,
I think
Scotty's
I
with
think
them?
It shows. I think it shows perfect to his character. Like
100%.
He's alienated.
So
he's
good.
alienated because he's gay in this macho,
dude.
You know,
The
dick swinging contest. It's like perfect. Like
the
his character's
scene,
so well written.
the scene where Jack and fucking Dirk have their huge argument, right? When he's all coked out, he's like, "I'm ready to fuck now," and
Just his reaction,
dude,
is
he
still in the
doesn't,
scene,
he
dude.
doesn't have a line of dialogue, but he's behind, like, just like with all the drama, like he's so upset, and it's like distracting that he doesn't like these. Burt Reynolds and Mark Wahlberg are giving performances of their careers, man. They're doing so good, but yet Philip Seymour Hoffman is just in the background acting better than them, man. Like he just somehow he's the best, dude.
He really is. Like, and it's I don't know, man. I feel like it does. It feels kind of weird. I feel kind of bad to be like Philip Seymour Hoffman was like he really just he has it. I don't know what it is, but he has it. And like
Had it.
Every movie I've ever seen him in is like I was crushed. I'm devastated. That
That's the one that hit me the hardest for sure. And out
Yeah.
of Celebrity Deaths, that's the one that hit me the hardest, man. Because
I love that his son is in Licorice Pizza. That makes me feel so good.
You need to see Licorice Pizza.
I know I haven't
'cause
seen it yet.
It's
I know
it's
I'm
way
slacking, but
chiller. It does do a really good job with the relationship dynamic.
I
But
think it's more like
this, I want to see. I forget his son's name, but Philip Seymour Hoffman's son is a great actor. He's so good, but he's so young. So I really hope his career blows up because you know, if it's genetic, I don't know. Like, but he's great. He's absolutely incredible in Licorice Pizza, which was like his first role or something. So anyway,
dude, he had so many good roles left in him, man. I'm fucking.
Dude,
it's.
he was in so many. We should do okay.
Oh my god,
we
need to do a Philip Seymour. Why are we not? Yeah.
We should do a Philip Seymour Hoffman month because he's been in like 100 movies, and he's always like the best part of every movie he's in, man. And then we'll just watch The Master again.
I know, honestly. Why not? I'm gonna watch.
Anyway, we're getting a little long in the tooth. Why don't you give us a money minute, and I'll pull up a Reddit? How about that?
It pretty much did exactly what every independent film did in '97, and then like the mid to late '90s. It was It was a cool 15 mil to make it, and it made 24, 24.3. So
okay,
or no, excuse me, not 24, 43.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say like it
43.
Yeah, like tripled it,
So
which is great for
right.
what kind of movie this is. Absolutely.
Right. That's essentially like you basically have to double to break even. So it did.
Yeah. When we do Philip Seymour Hoffman month, then maybe we'll get a chance to rewatch another PTA movie that I haven't seen in a long time because I want to rewatch Magnolia.
Magnolia, dude. No, Magnolia is really good.
It's
too.
really
Like,
good, and John C.
need to watch
Reilly
it again.
also is great in it, and William H. Macy. They're all great, but it's like that was one that was like I've only seen that one like 2 or 3 times, and I remember being like, I like it, but that one's muddy. You know
I think it's because I don't really like. We don't. We're both not necessarily Tom Cruise stans, and so like.
But that's
the
his
fact
best
that
role
he's, like,
for sure.
Kind of the main character, right? Honestly, yeah. But anyways, so it's like I want to see it again with like a less judgmental eye, like. Yeah. So.
Anyway, so I got a couple Reddits here for you. So, Clones of People 2 says, this is one of my favorite films, top 20, but it's been maybe a decade since I last watched it. I still love it. I remember when I discovered this by accident, and it instantly became one of my favorites that I had to tell everyone about, but this film is such a hard sell. hey, you should watch this film that's kind of like a gangster film, but set in the porn world in California in the 70s and 80s. And it's an ensemble drama that's really funny. Oh, yeah, and Mark Wahlberg has a massive cock. He said, I watch this film with joy every time that great tracking shot plays at the start. I think PTA knocks it out of the park with this one, and I can never decide if I prefer this or There Will Be Blood. The characters are the best thing about this film. Everyone is easily likable and has their own story to tell, and I'm glad that for most of them it's a happy ending. Philip Seymour Hoffman is amazing. I miss him. The music is great and sets the happy tone and the time period. Overall, for me, this is one of the greats, and I put it in the same bracket as Goodfellas, which is my favorite film. What's everyone's favorite scene? Mine is the scene in the drug den with the firecrackers going off. It's such a tense scene and at odds with the rest of the film. Thank you. Great comment.
That's amazing. Did you know that scene actually happened? That was like real. It wasn't a drug deal, but he was at a house party, and that dude lighting fireworks was the actual dude lighting fireworks at the house party, and Paul Thomas Anderson made friends with him because he was like, "You're fucking weird, dude. What are you doing? Like, you're lighting firecrackers off." Like, he was like, "You're awesome," and they became good friends. And so we cast him in that movie to be that dude to play himself.
So good.
Which is fucking wild.
Well, and the tape's going, and he's just like freebasing or whatever the fuck, and it's just switches. It's like Sister Christian and switches to Jesse's girl, but in between he's like, it ends. He's like, it's just that weird awkward moment. And then he's like, it's Cosmo. He's Chinese. Like, it does the look. Yeah. It's like it's a secret.
That was improv.
Was it?
Because he forgot his lines. Yeah, he forgot his lines at that moment, so we just improv that scene and they kept it in.
He's the best. Which also, so that scene, I'd heard about this and I'd seen this movie, and I remember when I saw the movie, I was like, oh, it's like that scene in Boogie Nights, but this movie came first, and so it's also kind of interesting. I bet you took from that was La Haine. You ever seen that? That French film came out like early 90s?
No.
It has a similar scene with like the crazy drug dealer, and he's like being all coked up, and he like Russian roulettes himself. He doesn't kill himself, but like it's definitely like that tension. So it's interesting. He probably took from real life in that scene, and like kind of like which is so good because it's like, if anything, that scene would be the part of the movie you technically could cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I was thinking
it's
that
like
too.
You don't. Yeah. Like, that's obviously Dirk's rock bottom, but, I mean, him getting his ass kicked in that parking lot is just as bad. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. And more true to form of this kind of movie.
Yeah.
That scene is awesome, but it's the most cinematic.
It even has its own title card. It feels like almost like a short story or like a short film within it. So I get that, because even it's like, one last thing. It even says like on the title card, like one last thing or whatever. And but it's so good. It's just so entertaining, dude.
Yeah, and well, dude, this movie would have been like 4.5 hours long originally. It was like 300 and it was like he wrote like a 360 page thing, and then he got it down to 180 pages.
Wow.
So,
I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I'm excited for his next movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, man. So one more Reddit. Turpa13 says, let's start this by saying sorry in advance to Levi. Haha. This movie was awesome and bad at the same time for me. The sets, design, and characters are so good, but damn, this movie has some serious fat. I know Leaves is going to go berserk on that comment. Haha. The heights were high, but the lows were low and took me right back out of the movie. I get they expanded on the characters a lot, but 2.5 hours was too much for this flick. But talk about an A-list cast and an A-list performance from all of them. The Johnson shot at the end was an absolute perfect ending. 2.9 out of 5. It would have gotten a higher score, I think, if this movie is trimmed down to 2 hours. I thank you for commenting.
Yes, yeah.
I don't
Lovely
think,
comment and good insight. I get it.
I don't think you're wrong, because I get it. Because like Clones of People 2 said, and like I was saying earlier, like I think There Will Be Blood is a better movie. But like right now, I think I like this one more, and it does. I would say that everything is crucial to the characters, but not everything is crucial to the plot. And like I just said, you could have, and the story would have flowed fine. You could have cut that scene. You would have lost stuff with Todd, but whatever. Even though him being like, "Well, what's on the goddamn fucking floor safe?" is great.
Yeah,
it's just Tom Jane getting blasted in the chest with shotgun. But, and John C. Reilly and running away. Like, that scene is so good, but like I said, it's like, yeah, you could cut it, and the plot would still be completely functional. Like, you wouldn't, because you still have Reed doing the magic, and that's kind of his, like, for no one cares, no one's clapping. Like that's him trying to do something else and not working really. But I don't know, man. Like so I'm not gonna go berserk on you. I think you're wrong, but only subjectively. That's a subjective opinion, and I'm fine with that. Because honestly, I tried to get Mary to watch this with me. She's seen it before though, but I tried to get her to watch it with me, and I was like, we better start it now because it's like 2 hours and 40 minutes, and she's like, fuck. And I was like, yeah, I honestly forgot it was that long because it does not feel like it to me.
It does not feel like it at all. And I can see how it would though, because I think that my first time watching it, I felt the length, and then like my other watches, I've been it literally like I was watching it and like when it gets to the drug scene, I was like, oh, the movie's like over. Like I'm like, oh shit. Like I kind of like I just sat through like the whole thing because it's just like. I don't know. It's really captivating, and it does just. It's got great momentum.
That's the thing. It's like, even though it's not like I was saying all this stuff about like family and characters, blah 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 blah. Like all that shit aside, it's just like every scene, it's just so goddamn entertaining. It's like it's either funny or it's tragic or it's just like fucking like it's just like I'm just never bored for a second in this movie. And
I mean, PTA is he's a writer. Like he really is a writer first. Like, and that he knows what he's doing. I love it. I love that he writes all his movies like that.
That's why
it's very rare.
That's why I put him up there too. It's just because it's great. So anyway, like that movie. Well, yeah. I got the poster. Like I said, I'm a fan.
Thanks, guys. Let us know.
Thank you for commenting. Like, and it's like if you disagree with these takes and you hate it because it's an affront to God with all its sex talk, then come tell us. I want to know.
I know. Yeah, we would love to know. Yeah, if you walked out of it because it's, I mean, it's no Deadpool Wolverine, but if you're like,
I know there's not enough fucking action. Anyway.
Yeah.
So that's that. Moving on.
I'm excited for next month. We're gonna get into it, baby.
I'm stoked because we've always talked like I've loved a lot of movies from the 60s, which we're doing 60s movies all month through August. And I've loved a lot of movies that I've watched from that era, but obviously having been born much after the 60s and gotten into film even later, obviously I didn't come out of the womb with like, I'm a film snob. But
that took a couple decades.
I know. Well, yeah. So, which is why I was angry back in the day. Like, if you would have told me back in when I was like 22 that this movie was like, you're like, there was some fat on this movie, I'd be like, I'll kill you.
Yeah, you're like, I'll give you fat.
Yeah,
like,
cut your fat off your body.
Yeah.
But so the first movie we're watching, and I'm excited because I try to put movies I haven't seen like any of, and that's what I'm going to continue to do probably. So, it looks like To Kill a Mockingbird 1. And
which I'm down for. I've never seen it. Like I've seen scenes, but
I gotta admit, I'm a little disappointed. I'm looking forward to seeing it. That's the only one I've seen some of though. And
darn!
I've seen some of it. I know what it is. Everyone has been talking about on the thread about how great Cool Hand Luke is, and I got it mentioned like 4 times. So I thought Cool Hand Luke was gonna win, and it got me excited to see Cool Hand Luke, and it didn't win. So this is another instance of Vanishing Point losing, like so during close. Driving Month, like Vanishing Point. Everyone was talking about Vanishing Point, but it lost. So this is one I'm going to have to watch on my own, and I will, because I want to watch Cool Hand Luke. But I am looking forward to see To Kill a Mockingbird, like in its entirety, because I know how fucking famous it is, the book and the movie, because it's like, I've seen a part, like a scene, one of the courtroom scenes from the movie, and I obviously know about the book. Everyone knows about it. It's iconic and apparently a great film. So I'm looking forward to watching it, and I'm looking forward to checking out all the rest of the ones. Onibaba did not get a single vote, but
clones are people too.
100%.
We're gonna put it. Well, it was 100% going on the list. We will watch it in October.
That's why I didn't vote for it, is because I was like, I was gonna vote for Onibaba, but then I was like, you know what? We will put that in October. So I voted for Cool Hand Luke, and then
hell yeah.
So yeah.
All right.
To Kill a Mockingbird next week. Check it out. Go watch it. Come let us know if it's up to your standards.
And
if it is a classic.
Where can they find us?
Oh yeah, on the internet. Go over to
internet.
Type in www.internet. It's the Reddit if you found us, or if you're on. Yes, please. If you're listening to us on whatever Spotify or anything, or YouTube or whatever, go to the Reddit in the link below and come tell us your comments about the movies. I read them after the fact, too, if you missed Boogie Nights. This is a film club, so each week we do try to watch a different movie and try and talk about it and stir up a little bit of discussion. So please go watch To Kill a Mockingbird. Tell us what you think. If you've already seen it, what's up, the whole shebang. So, and then thank you to our Patreons. We're not gonna do a bonus. We're not gonna do a bonus episode today either because Jordan.
I know.
He's a busy boy.
Yeah, so I have to get my sleep in, everybody, my beauty sleep. So next week we will 100% have one though. I'm totally down and ready.
We'll see.
I got some little secrets that I want to.
Don't be making commitments. Who knows what your position will be next week?
I mean, I assume we'll be okay to do it because it's not. Anyways,
we'll have to talk about the logistics of that.
That'll be next week. Yeah.
So.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being a Patreon supporter. You can support us too if you go to patreon.com and Cold Cinnamon Knowledge.
Yep, check it out.
Beautiful.
Stickers, all that good stuff. So, bye-bye now.
Yeah. Bye.